Hello, my name is Paola Lopez. My presentation is about reducing food waste through composting. The amount of food waste generated on a yearly basis leads to environmental and public health issues. Composting is a beneficial way to reduce the amount of waste that is sent to landfills. It relates to the 12th Sustainable Development Goal because it is a sustainable option to dispose of organic waste, and it offers a various amounts of environmental benefits. My research goal was to gain an understanding of food waste production and reduction methods, and to gain an understanding of composting as a way to reduce waste. My research approach was to find as much information as to learn about composting and how composting works and the benefits that it offers the environment. Most of my information was found on the Environmental Protection Agency website and on MDPI, which is an online encyclopedia. I found an interesting research article that was done to research how composting is effective and how it benefits the environment and how it helps reduce the amount of waste that is sent to the landfill. The process of composting. Composting is a natural process that defines the aerobic degradation of organic materials. Certain microorganisms play a key role in the decomposition. The process is easy to control. The requirements needed for the microorganisms to thrive include temperature, moisture, pH, nutrient supply, and oxygen. This image it shows the process of composting from the very first stage of buying fresh produce and organic materials, and as it begins to go bad, instead of tossing in the regular trash bin, it would be beneficial to throw it in a composting bin and it'll produce fertilizer in the end. Temperature, moisture, pH, nutrient supply, and oxygen are important to keep monitored in order for the bacteria that decompose all of the materials to thrive. The most important factor is oxygen because it is an aerobic process. The oxygen levels must be kept high in order for the bacteria and the fungi to properly decompose the material. Why composting is important? Organic waste actually accounts for 1/4 of the total municipal solid waste in the United States. It is a large amount of food waste that goes into the landfills, and it can cause problems. Food waste is the cause of several environmental and public health problems because it produces methane as it decomposes in a regular landfill, and it contaminates the soil and water in the process as well. Composting a percentage of food waste generated has several benefits because it reduces the need for chemical fertilizers, because the end result of composting is a natural fertilizer that can be used instead of chemical fertilizers. And not only is it better than a chemical fertilizer, it also is rich in nutrients, and it's a much better alternative. And it reduces the amount of food waste that is sent to the landfill because it's self-explanatory. It produces a fertilizer, and instead of sending the food waste to the landfill, it could be used in a composting bin. And it reduces the production of greenhouse gases due to the fact that it's not being sent to the landfill and it's being used in a natural process. Instead of creating methane, it produces a natural fertilizer. This table gives information about how much each material is sent to the landfill. It includes various materials, but it also includes information for how many fruit scraps and yard trimmings are sent, which, as previously mentioned, it is 1/4 of all of the solid waste that is sent to the landfill. In conclusion, food waste accounts for 1/4 of municipal solid waste in the United States. And the production of methane and contamination of soil and groundwater lead to environmental and adverse health effects. Composting is a beneficial way to reduce the production of methane and the overall production of food waste. There are several benefits that composting may provide. Overall, my information, I realized that composting, it can be quite beneficial, not only in the way that it reduces the amount of food waste sent to landfills, but it also provides a natural fertilizer that is rich in nutrients. It creates rich soil once it's used. And it reduces the amount of methane gas produced, which is overall beneficial to the environment because it'll reduce greenhouse gases. What can you do as a consumer of materials and producer of waste to help reach our global sustainable development goals? As a consumer, it is important to be mindful of the products that we consume regularly and most beneficial ways to dispose of them. Creating a compost bin or pile is quite simple and can be achieved by anyone. It could be achieved outside, and a compost bin can also be created if you have limited space. It's quite easy, it's quite simple. Resources that provide information about the best ways to dispose of organic waste and all other waste is quite accessible and worth researching. It's important to do research on how to reduce our consumption and how best to dispose, because consumption is inevitable as it's just a byproduct of living. But if we do our part to properly research how to dispose of it and how to reduce our waste production, it could go a long way. It is important to know which bin to use to properly dispose all household waste if designated bins are available. I know that not all households have different bins available to them, but the ones that do, it matters that we know which bin to use for which materials. This image shows the things that are compostable and the things that are not. There's several infographics like this that you could find online that give you more information on what can be placed in a compost bin and what should stay out of a compost bin. For example, animal manure should not go in a compost bin, but natural materials and organic materials like fruit scraps, mostly fruit scraps, grass clippings should definitely go into the bin. I would like to thank my professor, Dr. Susan Milohi, for providing me with resources and ideas that allowed me to thoroughly understand this topic. And here are my list of references. Thank you for your time and for listening to my presentation.